posting this on Truth Social, quote, "If the radical left Democrats don't immediately sign an agreement to let our country, in particular our airports, be free and safe again, I will move our brilliant and patriotic ICE agents to the airports where they will do security like no one has ever seen before, including the immediate arrest of all illegal immigrants who have come into our country, with heavy emphasis on those from Somalia who have totally destroyed, with the approval of a corrupt governor, attorney general, and Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, the once great state of Minnesota. I look forward to seeing ICE in action at our airports. Make America great again."
All right, well, we have some news on the whole DHS shutdown situation because today Trump may have found checkmate against the Democrats by announcing he will be deploying ICE agents to effectively work as TSA and help deal with the severe manpower issue that we're facing at our airports right now. To briefly recap, what is happening in Washington is that Democrats are shutting down and refusing to pass any funding for Homeland Security until they claim serious reforms are made to ICE and immigration enforcement. Now, despite the fact that Democrats are pretending as if they're basically withholding funding from ICE to protest ICE, that is not what is happening. We would like to remind everyone that ICE is permanently funded through the One Big Beautiful Bill. And so what Democrats really are doing is staging some type of confusing, ineffective, completely odd protest where they're basically saying, we are going to defund TSA, counterterrorism, the Coast Guard, and FEMA in order to protest ICE, which is permanently funded anyway. So obviously it doesn't make any sense. Obviously Democrats, as usual, just love to cause a bunch of pain on the American people in order to effectively get their way politically. So in other words, because we're the quote unquote moral good guys or something, that's why Americans deserve to miss their flights and deal with a bunch of chaos because, hey, don't you know Renee Good or something like that? Now, we're not even defunding ICE, but hey, you have to suffer because a bunch of our own stupid activists decided to get themselves in stupid situations, break the law, risk a bunch of people's lives, violently riot, etc., etc. And now you have to pay for that. So to recap, that is now what is happening. But because of the fact that although TSA is not getting paid, ICE still is, Trump basically said, okay, so if TSA is dealing with manpower losses, people are quitting, people are not showing up to work because they're not getting paid for obvious reasons, then why don't we just deploy ICE to go work at the airports? They're still part of Homeland Security. It's a fantastic idea. And by the way, because Democrats are inevitably going to freak out about that, you can't send ICE to the airports. Okay, fine. Great point. Nobody said it's ideal, so fund Homeland Security today, right? I think this is a master plan. This is frankly a fantastic idea. Democrats still to this very day are unable to answer the real questions as to what they're really doing, right? Because we repeat, what they're doing is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. They're not even defunding ICE, but we'll tell you all about these newest developments in today's video. First though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We greatly appreciate the support, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all the latest news and coverage. And that said, take a listen here to Hakeem Jeffries this morning on CNN, because about a month or however long it's been into this DHS shutdown, we repeat that Democrats still cannot answer what they're really doing because it fundamentally does not make any sense and is just causing a bunch of problems for no reason. Take a listen.
Let me ask you about that, because you are the whole reason, as you just laid out, that DHS is not funded right now is because you're trying to push the administration to enact some policy changes on how Border Patrol and ICE act when they're out looking for illegal immigrants. And now what you're saying is that you're okay with funding TSA, which has been, I think, the biggest point of leverage that you possibly had in order to get what you want on ICE, because ICE already has its money. So what was the point of this shutdown if you're okay with funding TSA?
Well, we never approach these things that are in front of us with respect to government funding in the context of leverage. Our approach is, what is the appropriate use of taxpayer dollars? And we believe that taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for the American people, not brutalize or kill them, or violently target law-abiding immigrant families, which is what we know ICE agents have been doing.
I'm just trying.
What are you? That's just complete deflection from the question, by the way. They ask you what's the point of defunding TSA and Homeland Security, and your response is that Democrats believe in affordability or something. What on earth are you talking? And notice how you completely deflected the question. And as CNN there pointed out, right? No, the point is not that you disagree with ICE. We know you disagree with ICE, Democrats. The question was, how does defunding the TSA, which is a completely different section of Homeland Security, but not defunding ICE, do anything to stop ICE, right? But you notice, like, he literally just can't answer the question. It's a complete deflection. But why is that? Because fundamentally, okay, it's not that Hakeem Jeffries lost his brain, although he didn't have one. No, Democrats, much like the whole voter ID issue, cannot answer this because their actual political stance does not make sense, right? Why are they so inarticulate when it comes to defending the DHS shutdown? Because their political stance is incoherent. It is nonsense. It is asinine. And they're basically just hoping that Americans are so stupid they don't know what's really happening. And so they're saying, oh, Democrats are defunding ICE. They're so brave and heroic. That's not what they're doing. That's not what they're doing. It doesn't make any sense. But let's see here now if Hakeem Jeffries can remotely try to be coherent about this.
To understand how if you fund TSA and the other agencies that you just talked about, how you think that you will be able to put pressure then on the administration to make the changes to ICE that you're asking for.
The American people are going to continue to put pressure on the administration because they know ICE is out of control. They need to be reined in. And our view is that they should not get another dime of taxpayer dollars until we have bold and dramatic and meaningful changes to ICE's behavior so that they are compelled to behave like every other law enforcement agency in the country. That includes making sure that there are judicial warrants that are required before ICE agents can rip the American people out of their homes in the middle of the night.
Okay, so once again, he literally just doesn't answer the question remotely. He tries, oh, the American people are going to protest against ICE. What does that have to do with the fact you're defunding TSA? About 2 minutes there of him grandstanding and filibustering, he doesn't even remotely try to give any sort of thing in the stratosphere of answering the actual question as to why Democrats are creating long lines at airports, 2-hour waits for the TSA at many major parts in this country on spring break. It doesn't make sense because it doesn't make sense. It really is that simple. And the ridiculous strategy here of Democrats is actually even causing some consternation within their own party. This week, Axios released a piece actually detailing how some Democrats are pointing out this is really stupid and we're not accomplishing anything by forcing Americans to wait in long lines at the airport because we have to stand with our violent domestic terrorist voter base who keeps on impeding ICE or something. So anyways, here it is. House Democrats are launching a Hail Mary push to effectively end the DHS shutdown by funding all of its sub-agencies except for ICE and Customs and Border Patrol. Which we repeat. Okay, so now you're going to fund Homeland Security. ICE is already funded through one big beautiful bill. So what you're saying is the whole thing was for nothing, okay? You caused all these problems, you accomplished nothing, and then now you're going to just say, okay, we're going to give up, right? What was the point of it? What was the point of it the entire time? You were never going to defund ICE. We have no idea. As I said, if you're kind of confused by this, if you're thinking it doesn't make sense, that's my whole point. It doesn't actually make sense. But anyways, it turns out that even among the Democrat Party, because of their stupidity and just this incoherent nonsense, many lawmakers are now questioning whether keeping the agency shut down is meaningfully incentivizing the White House to negotiate in good faith on immigration enforcement reforms. Well, spoiler, it is not, okay? Your demands are ridiculous. The Trump administration is not going to accept them. And as we'll show you here in a second, we basically found an alternative solution to the TSA problem, which is obviously what is affecting everyday Americans, right? Even Representative Don Beyer, a Democrat from Virginia, said, and I quote, "It's not forcing any change. In the meantime, we're making people hurt. Gee, you don't say." Isn't that, by the way, the same thing you did last year? The same thing you're probably going to do many times again before this administration is over, right? Let's cause a bunch of pain to random people because we have to grandstand over some ridiculous agenda of domestic terrorism. That's what's going on. The long lines, that can't make us more popular. Oh, really? Really? But I thought you had the moral mandate on ICE. It's funny how you just lost that within the span of 2 weeks. We're on the side of ICE, but not the rest. Now, Apparently, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries announced in a letter to his members on Monday that Democrats will file a discharge petition to fund TSA, FEMA, the Coast Guard, and other non-immigration DHS agencies. So, in other words, as Dana Bash pointed out there, Democrats are now willing to give up the only leverage they had, right? Oh, let's just basically fund the rest of Homeland Security. So what they're acknowledging here is they accomplished nothing and the whole thing was stupid. But, you can just see the bright-minded leadership that is in charge here. By the way, I think it's a very useful exercise as to what will happen if the Democrats win the midterms, because, you can fully guess if they have a little bit more leverage because they control the House or they control the Senate. They're just going to be doing this basically every single week. You might seriously be looking at the prospect of a 2-year-long government shutdown because Democrats want to basically just destroy the country. So that's worth noting here. So, they're doing that as well. As Axios here is pointing out, the plan would effectively end the DHS shutdown altogether because of the fact that the White House has already been keeping ICE and Border Patrol funded with more than $100 billion through the One Big Beautiful Bill. So Democrats are going to pretend, we're still trying to fight. You're not doing anything. The whole thing is stupid and useless. But, what else is new? Democrat strategy doesn't make sense. Their political agenda, the goals they were trying to accomplish were incoherent from the beginning. You don't say. Anyways, this news may be coming at the same time when Trump, again, has found the solution to the problem. Because if Democrats don't want to fund TSA, if the TSA are stopping to show up to work, or they're protesting, or they're calling in sick, all these things, well, there's one simple solution. We call it one big, beautiful solution, okay? It's called ICE is getting paid. Let's send ICE to the airports then. They're not going to like this. So here's what Trump just announced. On Monday, ICE will be going to airports to help our wonderful TSA agents who have stayed on the job despite the fact that radical left Democrats who are only focused on protecting hardline criminals who have entered our country illegally are endangering the USA by holding back the money that was long ago agreed to with and signed and sealed contracts, all in all. But watch, no matter how great a job ICE does, the lunatics leading the incompetent Democrats will be highly critical of their work. They will do a fantastic job. The great Tom Homan is in charge from President Trump.
Put together a plan today and we'll execute tomorrow.
Okay, so there are a lot of questions here. First of all, are ICE agents even remotely trained to handle security at airports?
ICE agents receive a high level of training. And, the ICE agents are assigned at many airports across the country already. They do a lot of criminal investigation on smuggling at airports. But, there's got TSA agents covering exits, people that enter through the exits. Certainly a highly trained ICE law enforcement officer can cover an exit, makes people don't go through those exits, entering the airport through the exits, and that stuff like that relieves that TSA officer to go to screening and to reduce those lines. So wherever we can provide extra security, I don't see an ICE agent looking at an X-ray machine because they're not trained in that. There are certain parts of security that TSA is doing that we can move them off those jobs and put them in the specialized jobs, help move those lines.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. So what you're saying is when you move ICE into airports, they are going to be just around the exits and the exteriors. They're not going to be helping people get through the lines and screening people's bags.
Those discussions are going on now. I'm not expert at TSA, so that's why I'm talking to the TSA administrator and the ICE director, find out where we can fit in. We'll have a plan by the end of today where we're sending what airports we're starting with and where we're sending them. But that's a discussion we're having right now. I ended the discussion to do the show, and I'll be back having those discussions when I finish. So it's a work in progress, but we will be at the airports tomorrow.
Yeah, so we already know what Democrats are going to say. I think you even heard some of it in that clip. They're going to, first of all, argue that ICE agents aren't properly trained, to which Tom Homan adequately responded, yeah, but they can guard doors, okay? They don't necessarily have to read the metal detector, but there's a lot of just people from TSA who effectively their job is to stand around. I'm not saying that it's useless because they need to stand there, but yeah, obviously an ICE agent can go and do that. they can alleviate the extra manpower issues that the agency will be facing. But honestly, that is not truly the crux of what the liberal opposition to this is going to be. We know what they're going to say, right? ICE agents are killers. They're murdering people, and now you're going to put them in the airports. You can't do that. To which I say, okay, well, you know, there's one way you could solve that problem is first and foremost, how about you fund Homeland Security then, right? You don't want ICE in the airport, then go fund Homeland Security. It's very simple. Okay, we've been saying it. There's a reason we're sending ICE to the airport, first of all. But then secondly, to the liberals out there, okay, if you truly believe that, if you really deep down in your heart believe that these ICE agents are just murderers that are shooting random Americans, then fine, I have a very simple solution. How about this? Don't fly. Don't fly. Our airports right now are way too crowded anyway, all right? Too many people, all these spring breakers, it's sort of annoying, we'll be honest. So how about we depopulate our airports by just telling all the liberals, hey, you know, you don't want to see ICE agents, don't fly. Same thing for the illegals too, by the way. Now, I'm not sure how often illegals are really able to fly under this administration, but you know what? Okay, keep them out of the airports as well. The only flights they're allowed to go on are international self-deportation flights. So, you know, it's actually pretty funny how that would work, okay? We could both solve the overcrowding of the airports and the lack of airport security problem at the same time, okay? Don't show up if you really believe that, but I'm going to take a wild guess. Liberals deep down don't believe that. They know that it's all just sort of this political grandstanding, right? Pretending as if people like Renee Good or Alex Preddy were totally innocent. They were doing nothing wrong. They're just random people that got massacred by ICE agents, which is exactly why they're still going to show up to the airports in the coming weeks. You know, they're still going to get on their planes, go on their spring break, do whatever they want to do, because in deep down, these people are not actually scared of ICE, okay? They know it's not the Gestapo or the Nazis or something. They're just, as usual, doing a performance. But again, I say to that very performance, okay, you don't want to see ICE in the airports, then fund Homeland Security, because this is a basic solution that we have to create because Democrats, as usual, cause the very problem that they're virtue signaling and grandstanding about.
Look, Congresswoman, Tom Homan was up on the Hill negotiating, trying to get this bill passed in the Senate. You've seen the White House give on lots of things, cameras, identification on ICE. The White House has given and given and given. Fact of the matter is Chuck Schumer is just a chicken shit, I'll say it, because he's concerned that he's not going to be the majority leader, doesn't want to pass anything that doesn't just blow up ICE. And so that's why we're stuck here. It's not anything to do. Everybody knows what has to be done. Chuck Schumer won't allow it to be done in the Senate, and that's where we are. American people, call the Senate, complain to Chuck Schumer, tell him to pass the bill now.
Yeah, well, we'll see how long Democrats are willing to put up with ICE agents at the airport. I'm going to guess not very long. I'm sure they're going to try to sue over it, although given the fact that ICE and Border Patrol are part of Homeland Security, as they note they're already deployed in airports, I think the Trump administration likely has a sound argument there. So if they lose that lawsuit, what's going to come next, huh? I mean, you can scream all you want, but actually, you know, honestly, I think it will be a very good PR opportunity for ICE, because a lot of normal Americans have never actually encountered an ICE agent. They see them as just evil, crazy mass murderers. Having the chance to actually see them in the airport and notice, oh, they're normal humans, right? They're not these like crazy genocidal Nazi maniacs. Honestly, I think no matter how much Democrats want to stand there and scream, ICE is in the airports, can you believe it? It will be a very good opportunity for a bunch of Americans to realize ICE are not these crazy lunatics that the media keeps telling you they are. So, you know, if Democrats want to continue to not fund Homeland Security and keep fighting and screaming about ICE in the airport, I say as well, that's also a fine outcome with me. Now, it does sound like in Washington, that's not what Democrats are seeking to do. Unfortunately, to an extent, they're basically caving now as it pertains to Homeland Security. They don't want that positive moment for ICE to come. So, you know, now's the time where suddenly, magically, they're giving up, realizing how stupid this is. So there you essentially have it. That said, guys, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.